Everybody, welcome. X's and Knowles presented by Knowles 24/7. I am Trey Rowland, Adam Brown, Kevin Little, and boys, camp has started. The season is almost here, getting perilously close to August. It might already be, depending on when you're watching it. And today we are going to actually be talking about what, I guess, not what we think, but what we would like to see on the field for Florida State's defense in the year of our Lord 2025 under new defensive coordinator Tony White. If you are on Knowles247.com, if you're not, you should, especially before the season. You can use our coupon code XSNOLES247. That'll get you half off. You would have seen Brendan Sinone's. There you go. Look at that nice little runner on the bottom. Kevin, well done. You would have seen Brendan Sinone's article. And he has his projected depth chart for the 2025 season for the defense. We're going to do one video for defense, one video for offense. I liked it. I thought Brendan had a lot of unique stuff, kind of gave you some more, just some better idea of how Florida State and Tony White are going to deploy their personnel. We wanted to do something similar, but a little bit different. We wanted to show you guys, if we had the power at this point in time, who we would build as our best 11 for Florida State's defense. But because we know you crave that sweet, sweet nuance so much, we're going to split it up because there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of different levers that old Tony White can pull. We're going to show you what we think our best 11, like our most wanted 11 on defense for running downs and our most wanted 11 for obvious passing downs. When we're thinking about maybe when Tony and the boys can get a little extra pass rush juice on the field. What do you guys think, dude? It's good to start talking about like some actual things that are going to happen. The summer is almost over in football season. It's not crispy fall yet, but it's close.
Yeah, I mean, what's consistently talked about with this defense? What is the major talking point? What always it comes back to is this is a hybrid defense. This is a defense we want to give a lot of looks to. We want to, we have these positions. And you can even see it on the board when people start talking about this team. When people were commenting on Brendan's article about the depth chart, a lot of this conversation kept coming back to, no, this guy's not a jack. He's more of a will. No, this guy's not a defensive end. He's a defensive tackle. No, he's a jack. No, he's a blah, blah, blah. But I think the reality of it is a jack is going to be different on a rundown versus a pass down. The flexibility allows them to kind of change what that means and when that means that, right? It's not a 4-down front where you're going to have Jared Verse at the defensive end every single snap. It's a 3-4 that prides itself on hybrids. It prides itself on flexibility. You can even see that in the roster they're building. There's a whole host of people who are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 270 pounds. Those are defensive ends, defensive tackles, jacks. Those are all people that could, depending on how they play with that weight, how they play with their frames, can be put in various different positions and be used to hunt for matchups. So even though we're going to have this here, even though we are trying to be as flexible as possible in defining a rundown versus a pass down, there's probably going to be even more flexibility. You might see, a nose tackle lined up at, over a tackle or something because they felt like that was going to be the best situation for them to get an advantage in a pass rush situation. So the strength of this defense is flexibility, and we're just trying to show some bit of that with how we're going to produce this.
It's a defense built for playmakers, essentially, is what you're saying, Kevin. But yeah, there's a lot of interchangeable bodies. There's a lot of interchangeable skill sets. There's some duplication of some of those body types. And not only like what situation the defense is in can dictate who's on the field, maybe what the other player at the opposing position, right? Like what combo of defensive ends do you want on the field? What kind of linebacker conglomeration do you want on the field? That's going to dictate who's out there at these specific positions. Adam, what do you think? Do you think it's a little bit too much observation on this guy is a this guy is a that? Should our fan base get ready to look at the defense a little bit more shades of gray?
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think that the most difficult part about this defense and this exercise is that Tony White's going to play like 4 or 5 different fronts. So, trying to pigeonhole a guy in as a field end or a boundary end or a jack or a Sam or a rover or a field corner or a boundary safety, like guys are going to move around. They want to be as positionless as possible. So they want guys to be able to do a lot of different things and not be kind of pigeonholed into this guy is this. So it's tough to sit down and have the conversation about, okay, I project this guy to play this spot because that spot's going to look really different every play. They ran an over front, they ran an under front, they ran a tight front, they ran a base 3-4, like they ran a base 3-3, like they ran so many different things. They're going to try to find their best 11, but they're also going to try to find their best 11 matchups. So, like, it might be Darrell Jackson and Daniel Lyons on one pass rush in one series, or it might be Darrell Jackson and James Williams the next series, or it might be Daniel Lyons and Jason Jenkins one play. It's just going to look different. So it's hard to kind of sit down and get this all kind of pigeonholed into a depth chart. But I think we've got a pretty good idea in front of us of what we're trying to come up with.
Me too. Could be opponent dependent too, like kind of how you see Mike Norvell's offense. Like it's like this offensive weapon is the guy this week. Could be that same with the defense, man. So that'll be interesting. Let's pull up that chart and let's talk about the running downs first. Kind of like what we see on like a 1st and 10, like a 2nd and 3, like sort of their base defense. Always, and Tony White always is going to focus on defending the run. Makes sense. Let's start. Well, I guess we'll go right to left. Let's look at that hybrid defensive end, defensive tackle. What are they calling that? Like the field end in this defense? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can kind of talk about the whole front, and I think kind of the main question for me, I guess, to AB to pose would be, I think when we're thinking about like a standard rundown, by rundown, I think we're talking like 1st and 10, run past situation. I think we could probably agree Darrell Jackson's at least day one is going to be your starting nose tackle.
Right in pen. Yep.
But the question is, are you going to potentially see a situation where, Kevin Wynn and Daniel Lyons, like all three, you see 3 big guys on the field? Are we thinking, Daniel Lyons probably finds his way as a defensive tackle as kind of that 3-4 technique by himself?
I would put Daniel Lyons at that other DT spot there, because I think that's a spot that they'll play. Let it play some 5, let it play some 4-eye in your tight front, some 5 if you're playing a base 3-3. And he's a guy that's athletic enough that you could even see him play some 6 or some 7 in some 4-man stuff. But I think you could put him there because he's likely going to be protected by that Jack or the Sam walking up. So I think you give him a little bit of protection of not trying to be not being forced to be an edge setter or contain guy. So, and I think, if you think back to what they had last year, they had 2 big defensive tackles that were pretty athletic. One of them's playing with the Eagles now, got drafted in the 3rd round, Ty Robinson. Can't think of the other guy's name. It was number 0, but he was a big nose tackle type that they like to move all over the place, and they like to get those 2 mixed up in stunts and run stunts and pass stunts and attack a defensive line or an offensive line with. So that's why I would probably put Daniel Lyons there at that D tackle spot. He's a guy that poses enough flexibility to be able to play a 3 tech out to a 5 or even a 6 or a 7. But mainly going to probably play that 3 as they bump into their 4-man front.
Makes sense. He's athletic enough too. I think that to me, I think that the interesting combination on the front, like you said, Darrell Jackson, right? His name down in pen. I actually do think, like you're right, Adam and Kevin, I think Daniel Lyons is going to be a very common running mate for Darrell. It's that end Jack combination. Like, what do you do? Do you want to have Jason Jenkins and do you want to have James Williams on the field at the same time? Do you maybe have a Deontay McCray mixed with a James Williams, have a guy that's, pretty stout against the run, but you do have a pass rush element as well? I'm interested to see what you guys think for this kind of standard 1st and 10 where it could be run or pass, like your base downs. What would you want it to be for this combination of who's going to be the Jack and who's going to be that field end?
Yeah, so this does get kind of complicated, right? Because if you look at James Williams and how he's utilized last year, he wasn't utilized in run situations at all. It was purely
spot duty, very situational.
Duty, put in at kind of defensive end when they needed passing situations. Does he step up? Is he someone that you use full time in this kind of situation?
I think it is. You went out and invested quite a bit of money in him, so I don't know the number, but I'm assuming you invested quite a bit of money in him.
He's got to be on the field, but where would you put him in this?
Yeah, he's one of those guys that you're going to write in pen also. I don't know where that is exactly. If it was me, and this is my best 11, he's playing the jack for you because
I think in a
guy athletic enough. Yeah, I think he's a guy athletic enough that you can move around, but I think he's probably your best true pass rusher along your front. So he's a guy that I think you want to be able to line up into the boundary or line up the weak side of the formation and let him be a pass rusher for you.
Who's a good edge kind of running mate? If James Williams, if we do have him in our preferred 11, taking up that Sam Jack spot, which they do a lot of stuff, walking him up to the line. They have a lot of flexibility with that. It's not just 2-point stance stuff, Kev. Who do you think would be his best running mate?
I think this is actually where you're going to see most of the kind of variability. There's a lot of new faces that we haven't seen in Garnet and Gold, kind of vying for this spot. Kind of similar builds, but different skill sets. Jason Jenkins comes to mind pretty quickly.
Assuming health, yeah, for sure. Maybe not so much in game 1, but yeah, I'm with you there. By maybe like game 6 or something. What about, like you said, Kev? There's Deontay McCray is a name that comes up to me just because of the film that we watched of him at Western Kentucky, having a good, stout, edge-setting, run-stopping defensive end. A guy that is an interesting name is the Coastal Carolina transfer, Diamante Diggs, who's gotten a lot of positive press from the coaches and from his time so far at Florida State. But he's a guy that they brought in. I know Chris Nees mentioned it multiple times on the Bench podcast. He's not sold on him yet because he's had some other coaches telling me they couldn't believe that Florida State took him. So, but is he a guy that's there? I don't know. Like, this is a very intriguing, that opposite James Williams defensive end spot is intriguing to me.
So they mentioned Diggs today as a guy potentially for the jack spot. And it makes some sense because he's a longer guy. I think you let him stand up and use his length as a pass rusher.
Okay.
That other DN spot, the field DN, I guess if you want to refer to it as that. That Jenkins makes sense there, but again, you're looking at his health. So Jenkins, McCray makes sense there as a bigger, longer run stopping guy. We've seen some of that from him. I think beyond that, you're looking at maybe one of the Desir twins. It gets head scratching pretty quick, which is, we all know that's a frustration for us that's been pointed out quite a bit over the offseason. So I'm trying not to go down that path right now. But yeah, I think Jenkins first is a guy you look at there.
Yeah.
With McCray following him up. And then I think, like, in some situations, though, we have like the Jack/Sam written down there. Like, it makes sense at times that you might see James Williams there.
And then like an Elijah Herring playing the jack.
Correct.
Or something
Elijah
like
Herring playing as the Sam, or Stephon Thompson, who's been with Tony White at 2 separate spots. But I'm trying not to put the cart before the horse here. So I think Jenkins and McCray there at that D end makes some sense.
I think if we're thinking purely purely kind of a run situation, purely like we first down, you want to stop the run, you want to force them to pass. I think it makes sense to have these bigger bodies in there. I think once you start putting James Williams at the defensive end, well, now you're putting linebackers at the jack, and you're potentially sacrificing at least size along the front.
And I think something that is a good way to look at these positions and where we have people lined up is there's some players, Adam and Kev, that we think are going to be they need to be on the field. The guys that we've said are written in pen. James Williams, Darrell Jackson, Daniel Lyons to an extent. Like, they're going to be playing some different positions if they can, but these are some of your most talented people. We expect them to be on the field in some capacity. And just because we have it written up with like Jason Jenkins there, and like James Williams is going to be on the field, Darrell Jackson is going to be on the field a lot of the time.
Yeah. Just
where they move them just kind of depends, like you said, matchup, situation, or things like that. But I like this. I wonder how many what percentage of the time we're going to see like a more traditional linebacker in the Sam Jack role and a more defensive end body type in the Sam Jack role. That'll be an interesting split, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be matchup dependent. I mean, I think it's going to, are you playing a more RPO based team? Are you playing a more spread pass based team? Like if you're playing Miami, you're probably going to see more of a mix because Miami wants to run the ball, but then we know they've got a very spread oriented attack. So you may want to be able to play more coverage against Miami, but also try to mix in your run stopping front when you can to make sure you're, attacking that duo attack with as many big bodies as you can.
Okay.
You think about Clemson. Clemson's a team you're probably going to want to be a little bit heavier against. They've got a pretty good offensive line. You're going to want to be able to attack them with size up front and be a little more stout. Trying to think of the schedule this year.
Well, you got Pitt. You got like a Pitt. That would be somewhere you'd want to go heavy against. Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example when you're going to want to be in like a true 3-3. They play Syracuse. I can't think of the schedule off the top of my head. If you're playing like a Syracuse, they're big, going to throw it all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might want to be in more of a 3-3.
Or like a Wake Forest.
Wake. Yep. Yeah, Wake's a good example.
Whereas like Virginia Tech's going to run the football. They're going to run inside zone. They're going to try to run it right down your throat. You're going to put bigger bodies in.
Yeah. So just trying to provide some like examples of when you might want to see.
Yeah, but right now we're worried about run defense.
Yeah.
And I think that looks like a good front. Moving on to the linebackers. I think there's a little bit less maybe speculation here for like if we assume that this is going to be this, and once again, this is what we would want to see on 1st and 10, not necessarily what we're going to see. What would we want to see at Will and Mike with this front in front of them?
Yeah.
I mean, you know me. I'm a juice crier truther. I want to see that kid on the field as much as possible.
Live your life, baby. Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that one, though, dude.
I think you got to plug him in at the Mike. I think he's a Mike linebacker. He's a guy you want in the middle of your defense. I think he's one of your loudest voices, guy that showed some leadership last year. I think that's kind of where you want him to be.
And then like there are, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you hear them talk up Omar Graham. You hear him say good things about it. You bring in a few transfers, some like Stephon Thompson, where his top end, there's questions around, what his top end is there, but he has tons of experience in the system. And then you have guys like Blake Nicholson that like athletic traits through the roof, but haven't seen that much out of him. I mean, who do you think who is sitting in that Will spot?
Well, I know Elijah Herring's got to be on the field, right? Like there's been so much praise for that kid. I don't know.
But I think he's your Sam. I think Elijah Herring's your Sam because he's a guy that could play up on the edge if you need him to. Play on the edge if you need to, could stack him if need to. Like, I think he's a guy you can move around a little bit more. So that's the main reason I would say for that Sam, you're not going to do it as much with the Will, or he hasn't traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think Herring's a guy you're going to want to have in a spot that you can move him about. And I know the thought process is maybe Stephon Thompson, but I think Stephon Thompson's brought in here to be a reserve guy, a break in case of emergency, a guy that knows the defense inside and out, can help everybody around him, a guy that you can rely on when you've got a couple injuries or you need some leadership on your defense. Elijah Herring, I mean, he didn't play well at Tennessee, but he was pretty damn good at Memphis last year in that Sam kind of hybrid role. So that's, I'm just looking at what he's done well. Makes sense for him there.
I guess we'll put that in the back pocket for a passing situation. It makes a lot of sense to put him there, but for this Will's in this situation,
it's got to be Omar Graham, right? I mean,
I'd say
talk about how much they've talked him up. They talk about Blake Nicholson, but it just doesn't sound the same. Like nobody ever sounds sold on Blake Nicholson taking that step as a player.
I think they just trust Graham's experience, his instincts. Obviously, everybody remembers the beginning of the season, which was 100% rough, man, that Georgia Tech game. But we watched during the film, he really did improve. He's not an athletic specimen. He's got a good sense of where to be on the field. He knows what's going on, and his play did improve. So I'm with you. If we're looking at a front four of Williams, Lyons, Jackson, and Jenkins, and we're saying, hey, we see Herring's role as like Sam kind of only, which makes sense given his skill set. Those are the two linebackers that I think will most likely be on the field behind those 4 dudes. I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm imagining playing
Yeah.
Virginia Tech. Like if we need to, if the goal is to shut down the run, yeah, I think this makes sense. And then, yeah, maybe we were talking about Nicholson, and maybe this is more for when we get to the passing situation. He might be someone that makes sense to kind of slot into the Sam,
I think
into
so.
the Jack
More than the
occasionally
Will,
as just and tell him to just rush. Just tell him to use his speed around the edge. And that's kind of how you can use him, because I do think a lot of his problem might be, game speed related.
And he's a guy too, Kev, to your point on pass rushing downs. I think he's a guy you can play some games with like stunts and twists and things like that. Going inside to occupy the tackle gives your defensive end like a free run. There's a lot of stuff you could do with his athleticism, but I'm with you.
Yeah, maybe not someone you want in the middle of the box.
They didn't mention him at all today when talking about the Jack spot. Nicholson was never brought up as like a Sam Jack.
Did they bring him up as a Will guy?
Or did
they not bring him up at all?
I don't think that question was asked. At least on Knowles 24/7, Zach spoke with Terrence Knighton, and Knighton specifically mentioned Stephon Thompson, Juice Cryer, and Elijah Herring as like the Sam Jack kind of role. So
yeah, I guess I would
bring a salt and take it for what it's worth, because it is a preseason press conference, and you know how those things kind of go as far as honesty. But just interesting that Blake Nicholson, because I agree with you, would make perfect sense that Blake simplify the game for him, let him go be an edge guy and kind of use his athleticism, but doesn't seem like they necessarily see him there, which maybe they see him as a Will, and that makes some sense. Let him be a free runner, because if they're playing their true 3-3, the Will and the Sam are pretty interchangeable as far as their jobs and what they want to do on blitzes and things like that. So it would make some sense to maybe play him at the Will if you don't see him as a guy you can put up on the line of scrimmage and rush as a Sam.
And maybe is more of like Omar Gray would be your obvious, like your innings eater as the starter, but then how they kind of brought James Williams in last year situationally, maybe like Blake Nicholson would be your situational blitzer. I don't know, because the kid is athletic, so we'll see.
He is, and you need to tap into that.
And that's once again standard, more running down stuff. We'll get to our best 11 after this. Let's go to the backfield now. Let's go to the defensive backs. What do you guys see at the cornerback positions? I don't feel like there's a whole ton of intrigue here. No. I mean, one is the kid from Houston's locked up a spot, no Wilson. Doubt.
Yep. And it seems like Jabril Rawls is the other one.
Yeah, that seemed to be the talk. I mean, whether or not it's boundary or field, I don't know. In college, you don't see, with the prevalence of fast-paced offenses, too many times where corners are flipping sides depending on field strength. But
and this one too, Kev, I don't see that there's going to be any variation in those guys based on run or pass.
Right, they're both pretty stout against the run. So
what do you think about that combination as Florida State starting corners?
I think they make sense as zone corners, right? These are guys that kind of aren't afraid to come up and make a tackle in space. They kind of have that. They move well in a phone booth kind of strengths. I think it's no coincidence that you see someone like Rawls starting to rise up compared to, a Quindarius or even some of the higher, like a Kai Bates or Charles Lester, all these guys who are brought in to be man corners. You see someone like Rawls who's more of, of a hybrid kind of guy, as a guy who could have played nickel potentially in a different kind of defense. But like that works in zone coverage, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
It'll be interesting to see who the you mentioned them, like who's going to be the young guy that steps up. Like, is it Kai Bates, Charles Lester, Shamar Arnaud? Like, who's going to be the young guy that distinguishes themselves in that rotation? Because I think the 2-1 spots for those corners are pretty locked in, and I feel good about Wilson. I've heard a lot of good stuff about Rawls. It hasn't been consistent yet on the field, but I don't know. I don't feel too bad about it based on what they're asked to do. And now the safety conversation, I think, is imminently more interesting. Who would we have in our best 11 for boundary, rover, and field on this primarily run down 11 that we're building?
Yeah.
Edwin Joseph is going to be in pen for me no matter what.
At that field safety position?
Yeah, because I think he's a guy that can match up with wide receivers and play back and And I think he's the most versatile piece you got in your secondary, personally.
Physical too. Wasn't really worried about him getting ate up too much. That rover position, it feels like that. I mean,
Yeah,
they
that
brought
feels
the
pretty
Earl
locked
Little.
in.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah.
brought him to
It's got to be.
the secondary to me is the least amount of intrigue.
Yeah, and that's not really going to change all that much down to down.
No. And then I think Shaheem Brown is your boundary safety.
Yeah,
And
he has to be.
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's your vet. Hopefully his head is on where it needs to be this season, and he's not, sniffing his own farts like maybe was happening last year at times, what that entire team was doing.
Catching a couple whiffs. Yeah, wouldn't have
yeah.
been the only one. The only fart sniffer from last year.
I mean,
I agree with that.
The team last year was pretty brutal, and they clearly bought their own hype. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that secondaries just feels like it makes sense, especially if we're thinking of it from a strictly a run perspective. And I think if we're talking about run, you've got to talk about run pass options. So Joseph and Shaheem Joseph specifically has shown he can match up with slots and play some like a more of a corner type role, but he's also been physical enough to come down in the box. And in Shaheem, I mean, we've seen 4 years of him being a guy that can do both things. So it just makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, Earl Little's really the big question mark to me, because we were kind of high on him. He had some interesting, at least, practice tape at Alabama. There's things to like about his athleticism, but he seemed really lost last season. So maybe hopefully this position kind of makes sense. It feels like he's talked about highly. And another thing to just note is there is a lot of talent in the secondary. I think KJ Kirkland has potential to be someone someday. I mean, Kai Bates, Charles Lester, Quindarius, like all these guys have potential. If you put them in the right place, if they develop the way that you hope they can be really good players for you. Same thing with Conrad Hussey. I mean, we saw some ups and downs, mostly downs over the past couple of years, but there's flashes of athleticism that are very obvious. And hopefully, while we say the secondary is set in stone, hopefully you're getting a lot from a lot of these guys that are second string. Hopefully there's the ability to kind of rotate and use some of their strengths. Use an Ashlyn Barker as a downhill thumper in a run situation.
Absolutely.
Hopefully he gets there.
Yep.
Yeah, there's clear spots for these dudes, and with the way that Tony White kind of utilizes the coverages and the post snap looks and things like that, man, having like a talented 2 deep to match up against like some of the receiving cores that we're going to see this season, that's only going to help the entire defense, man. It'll be nice. Any sort of development that you see from those really talented classes of young dudes that they brought in, like it's time for some of those guys to ascend, and that'll be able to just help the entirety of the defense, where right now pass rushing is the biggest question mark. What helps a pass rush better than anything? Great coverage, right? So I feel good about the secondary. I feel good about it. And I think the intriguing thing, and like you said, Kev, when we switch over to like our preferred pass rushing 11, our preferred like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 guys, I think those 5 dudes in the secondary, we're not going to, no changes there, right?
Yep. I'm just going to copy him right on over.
Ooh.
So move that over. Bada bing.
Oh, I didn't like that.
Hated that.
What am I doing?
Feeling
yeah.
miserable.
That's clear. Oh, it only copied one of them. All right.
That's okay. We'll write them in as we go.
I'll do it manually.
Yeah, that's okay. Like a caveman. Let's talk about the front. So 3rd and 7, Adam. Who do we have at that field defensive end spot? To me, I think that's where you put like James Williams, right?
The field end spot?
Yeah, and then or not. What do you think?
I don't know if the front changes a whole lot for me. If
you keep it the same, dude. So Elijah Herring's kind of the odd man out then, like, and he's rotating.
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't want to call him an odd man out because I think there's a role for him. But like, are you taking James Williams off the field for Elijah Herring?
No, I think that's what he's saying.
I probably play them together.
Playing together. I don't know, man. Jason Jenkins got some really good pass rush tape too.
Well,
I mean, is this a possibility to do something like?
Could you have Williams and Jenkins at that opposite DT, maybe?
Yeah, have Jenkins in here at defensive tackle, and then have nose tackle be
keep Darrell at the nose. I mean, you can still keep
Yeah.
Darrell at the nose to occupy, and then you got sort of that, or then like maybe like now this is where you get funky. Maybe the starting 11 that we just did is our best 11 that we'd like to see, but like on some funny pass rush situations, man. Do you have James Williams at the defensive end, and then you see that's where Amari Williams gets in at the jack? Like, what do you do? What's some fun things that we could do, like on passing downs? Maybe that's what we'll do. Not necessarily our preferred pass rushing set, but what's
I
a
think if I'm
set
putting
of
my
dudes?
best, I think if I'm putting my best pass rushing front out there, though, like you know, I love Daniel Lyons, and
Did you put him at the nose?
No, I'm putting him at D tackle.
because
I think Daniel Lyons is one of the best pure pass rushers on this team. I fully believe it. And
I mean,
I would say, yes, put him at the nose, but Darrell Jackson's not coming off the field unless he just doesn't take a step forward. Like,
Well,
they are not taking him off the field.
well, maybe
he's
it
gonna have
just
to
makes
come
more
off
sense.
eventually.
Well, you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
He's coming off the field to get a breather, not coming off the field because.
Correct. Yes.
All right. So let's get
maybe
crazy.
it makes more sense to take, maybe Juice Cryer or someone else
like
out and put, change out the will.
All right. So if we want to get wild,
get funky.
Crazy,
Let's show them.
Let's get funky. All right. So let's put Lyons there.
Because I agree, these two are monster pass rushers, even though they don't look like ends.
Yeah. And because I just don't think they're going to be like, I think when they want to rush a passer, they're going to be in a 4-man base, not a.
You do.
Man.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Maybe put Blake at the will. Blake Nicholson at the will. I know we're talking about the front, but I'm just kind of bouncing all over the place looking at names.
Yeah, no, this is good. This is fun.
I mean, it's really these 5, these 6.
Yeah, I think that's and then put Elijah Herring at your Mike.
I think I lost Elijah Herring. And then you can play games, essentially monster front this thing, where you have these 3 guys kind of hanging around the line of scrimmage, not putting their hands in the dirt. You play stunts with them. You drop some off in coverage. You use the athleticism that's there.
Walk them up, kind of like have that amorphous.
Trey doesn't love it. Trey doesn't love it. It's not chaotic enough for Trey.
I
can see in your eyes you don't love it.
No.
All right, how about this? Let's put James Williams at the end. All right. Put James Williams over there. Get Jenkins the hell out of here. Let's put Diamante Diggs at the jack.
And the kid, he's up top. And the kid has gotten a lot of, like I said, a lot of people can't believe it. I know Chris Nee is incredulous, but I guess he has gotten a lot of praise.
They mentioned him, and that's a lot of length. So, I mean, he's like a legit 6'6", like tall as hell and really long. So, I think that's a lot of length.
Do you ever see a front where you've got like a Diamante McCray and a James Williams with both their hands in the dirt at deep, like as your bookend guys? Like, do you ever see that?
This D line hurts my soul, man.
Why is that? In a good way?
It's not good enough. It's just not good enough for this freaking team. This is Florida State, man. Come on. We shouldn't be having this freaking conversation. This should be so blatantly obvious.
It should be there are 4 guys. Yeah, I guess when you're
Right,
you've got a Jared Verse, right? You're like
back to positive, man.
That's okay, but I agree.
You got a Jared Verse. It does not matter if it's a pass situation. Jared Verse is in the game. You got a run situation. It does not matter. You've got Jared Verse in the game, right?
This leads to a good conversation though, because everybody's like, if they say you have 2 quarterbacks, you really have no quarterbacks, and here we are trying to like patchwork together like a competent, like a good defense, like a Florida State quality defensive line in the aggregate with all these, because Tony White does have all these different combinations, but are any of them optimal, right? Is there any great combination?
We've never seen Diamante Diggs at this level.
We don't know.
We've never seen James Williams play more than 200 snaps. Darrell Jackson is the only semi-sure thing that we know about, and
he's inconsistent.
I don't think he plays as well as the data says that he plays. Daniel Lyons really flashed last year, but then he got hurt. Elijah Herring couldn't do it at Tennessee, but then was good at Memphis. Blake Nicholson, we've never seen him put it together. Omar Graham is the guy that everybody wants to bitch and moan about on this defense. Juice Cryer was good, but he's coming off a pretty serious injury. Like Stephon Thompson was good a couple of years ago, but lost a lot of athleticism when he got hurt. Caleb LaValle was hurt in the springtime. Deontay McCray, like we liked it, but now they're talking about putting his hand in the dirt full time, and like
he's from Western Kentucky. He's like you said, that's another guy coming up to a different level of competition.
He's not even getting any hype. Like,
no.
So what's that say? You know what I mean? Like they're not even talking about him at all. Amari Williams is a converted tight end, but he's really only a true freshman age-wise for college, but he's been in the program 2 years. The Desir twins, like they
true freshmen,
yeah,
3
true
stars.
Freshmen.
Yeah, great
Williams,
praise.
True freshmen, like just.
I didn't think about it this way.
The thing is, like Lions, I think Lions, Jackson, and Wynn represent a really high ceiling for that interior.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that fixes a lot of problems.
I think you could put Sampson in there too. Like I think KJ Sampson's a guy that can penetrate and do some things for you.
But yeah, there are real questions, and part of it is like, okay, there's always this thing in football about, you know, the big schools don't want to go to 3 down fronts because they're seen as these patchwork kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're good enough, you can play a 4 down front and those guys are on the field every play and it doesn't matter because you are just better than them. Why get too fancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same arguments can be made about offenses, right? It was people were slow to go the spread because the spread was seen as this, like, you don't need to do that. You can just run it down people's throats if you're good enough. So the question is like, how much of this is like, yeah, the talent isn't where it needs to be, which I would agree. And how much is it is just like, this is a defense designed to make the most out of a bunch of disparate parts. Yeah. And we're just kind of seeing the recruiting.
Oh, for sure. This is what Tony White's built his name on, right? Like this is what he's.
Yeah, this is Moneyball defense. Yeah,
this is what he's built his resume on. Look at what he did at Syracuse in 2-year turnaround at Nebraska. Like, yeah, 100%. He's taken worse units and made chicken salad out of them 1,000%. I guess maybe my frustration or my concern is, all right, so we wanted to build a pass rushing front. We really only have 5 names that we feel comfortable putting out there. So that's where I think it gets difficult for me. Like my best 11 is going to be both the same because I'm not sure how much is Jenkins going to be able to play.
That's the thing too. And one of those 5 guys, like you said, Adam, is a question mark for the first third of the season, right?
It's a hell of an injury in which he's got a serious jump in his time frame to get back and play. And yeah, it just that one's interesting to me. If he's able to go, like that's a big boon for your front because he is a good player. And you need him to be that for you. But yeah, it does concern me. Like they're not talking about McCray at all. No buzz about this kid. I thought he was one of the best takes they had.
I thought the film was good, and I thought he had a really nice defined role to play opposite the Jack or the Sam or something like that, like a good guy to have on the field. And I'm with you, dude. We seem to be kind of the only people. And Brendan talked about him when they got him out of the transfer portal too. It was a good take. We looked at the film.
All the metrics look good. Like
I thought it was a good take. But we haven't heard a damn thing though, right?
No, zilch. Sorry, Kev, I cut you off.
I don't know, and we think they're primarily going to be spending most of their time in a 3 down or a 4 down.
I mean, I think with the way they've brought in players, with the talent, with the roster that's currently comprised, I mean, with like how you're going to have to be moving in like all these guys, the McCrays, the Diggs, the, you know, whoever.
The 6'4" and above squad.
Right, the 6'4", 270 squad, right? Like that screams 3 down to me. That screams they're going to try to get creative. That screams that they're going to try to play games with linebackers, like with Juice Cryer inserting into A gaps and try to do just things to make more out of nothing. That kind of tweener frame that this roster is kind of just built on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you have an obvious 3 in Lyons, Jackson, and Williams. And that obviously might be, your defensive line for a lot of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kev. I've thought it all along, and even though they ran a lot of 4-man last year, you think back, we did that one video where I was able to find the clips from Tony White's office with the recruiting.
The
got
whiteboard.
scrubbed from the internet.
And he had all the
deleted
stuff
from
on there.
existence.
He had the tight front on there. He had the 4-man stuff on there. He had the over front. Like, it just makes sense to me. Like you said, they brought in all this length, all these 6'6", 270, 260, 250 in that range, all those guys. You've got a boatload of linebackers that you kind of like. It makes sense to me. And you think about the bodies. We talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7, maybe 8 total bodies that we talked about along the D-line that potentially are going to play this year.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it make some sense to try to build out a true 3 deep with your defensive line by only having to play 3 of them at a time as opposed to 4 of them at a time, and using all those linebackers that you like and the flexibility you have with the Stephon Thompson, who's played that Sam Jack role at Syracuse under Tony White, Elijah Herring, who played it at Memphis last year, using those guys in that role more. Blake Nicholson, who we know is an athlete that they can try to find a matchup with, like trying to use those guys more, and the more sure thing that you have in them as opposed to all the question marks that you got along your defensive line. So playing a three-man front, getting the most out of your depth, getting as many question marks off the field as you can, and only playing 3 of them instead of 4, and getting more of those semi-sure things in your linebackers on the field for the majority of the time. Like, they're going to play their 4-man front, but living out of that 3-man, being multiple out of that 3-man by blitzing these linebackers and creating pressure with that way, it makes more sense to me. But
So go back to that tab, Kev, that rundown, kind of that base defense tab, because this is like, I guess, what we'd want to see if everybody's healthy. But you think what we're probably going to see is Elijah Herring at that Jack Sam, James Williams at that field D end, and then Lyons and Jackson, right?
Are we on that one?
He moved up. This is the one that we built first, where it's like this would be like our optimal one that like is the most versatile, I would think.
Yeah,
and it's
but if this isn't good to go and we don't trust, who's behind it, then James Williams moves this defense.
And then you put Herring at the Jack, and I kind of feel like that matches up more with like the projected depth chart that Brendan had. Right?
I think that Williams plays plays a stand up boundary end,
which he did last year,
and I think that's proof of concept that you can do that with him here. Mm-hmm. So I think he plays a stand up, almost like a wide 7 3-man or end in the 3-man look with Jackson at the nose, and then Daniel Lyons at the strong side at the field end. And I think you do that because then you could protect him with Elijah Herring.
Okay.
And
you
change this.
What you're going to do, hear me out. So what you're going to do is when you want to get into your 4-man look, you're going to you're going to kick your defensive line weak, which is going to keep Darrell as a 1 tech, bumps Daniel Lyons to a 3 tech, and puts Elijah Herring up on the line of scrimmage as your other end.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Am I making sense to you, Kev?
Yeah. So okay. Essentially we just kind of push everybody.
You're going to kick everything weak, walk your Sam up, bump your Mike and your Will over in the gaps.
Right. So this conversation has kind of just adapted to like, okay, so if we don't trust these guys, Jenkins is hurt, McCray doesn't step up, whatever, then you're going to see a lot more Elijah Herring. James Williams is going to have to be closer to the center of the defensive line, and he's going to have to take a bigger role. Yeah. He can't just sit and put his ears back and.
So this might be, and like you said, you have it as no DT depth, which is hilarious and could be very true. But this might be this could be more of like what you see game 1, and that other thing is maybe what you see by like game 7, right?
Yeah.
It would be, and I think we said that we like Florida State's potential as a defensive unit in Game 7 more than we like them in Game 1, right?
Yeah, there's going to be an evolution to this whole thing. Like it's.
I like that. Look at this. We didn't expect this conversation to go like that. Interesting.
I've been trying to scream 3-man front, but it goes against what a lot of people think about it. So I've been trying to not say. I don't know how they're not a 3-man front. I don't. And we're going to find out. We're going to find, and I could be completely wrong. It just, I don't know how you look at this list of players and say.
I think they're looking at. I think when me and you look at a defensive roster, we think about the weaknesses of the defense. And what most people think about when they think about a defensive roster is they think about the strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And I think James Williams, if I was to find an ideal role for James Williams, it would be a 4-down defensive end. Like, I don't think I want to drop James Williams out in coverage. I'm not trying to put him.
I don't think their jack drops in coverage very much, but.
Right, and I don't want him at a 4-eye or inside of a,
God, no, he'd get eaten alive.
Yeah, head banging
Right,
against
so
inside shade of tackles.
I think James Williams' strength is, to be a pass rushing defensive end, to be a 4-down defensive end.
Yeah.
So I think when most people are looking at that, they think, oh, James Williams is a defensive end. They went and got this guy that's a 4-down defensive end. Therefore, they're going to run a lot of 4-down stuff. But I think they have a way of playing 3-down, which will allow him to occupy that role. And like you were saying, maybe you put him on the same side as Elijah Herring, and you can have Elijah Herring insert into a B gap or something. So James Williams isn't lined up on a guard,
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what's going on there. Or even
I knew this one was going to be the messiest one.
Well, it is, but it shows you the kind of the flexibility that Tony White has, but also kind of the predicament. It's so much different than like Florida State's 2023 defensive line, right?
What did Arnett run at Mississippi State?
He was a 3-down guy. He was a non-front guy. He was a tight.
You brought him in. Like, come on, you brought him in. You're running the freaking 3-man front. You're going to run the 33. You are. Quit bullshitting me, guys. I know you are.
So this is good. So we think, once again, our optimum 11, I think, would be that on standard rundown stuff would be that first slide, assuming that we can trust a field end that's not James Williams, right? Assuming that Jason Jenkins can play up to his hype, or Deontay McCray makes the transition like we think he has the ability to from watching his film. Like, we like this. Like, this could be like maybe their best version of their 1st and 10 defense. But game 1 against Bama, or maybe what they're forced to do, because maybe they can't trust anybody at that field end other than James Williams. Like, I think that's a good distinction to make, because it makes sense, Adam, with like the offseason bodies they brought in. And I feel like the coaching staff trusts the dudes that they have they feel like there's more known commodities at linebacker than there are at edge right now.
Yeah. And I think what it comes down to is like, okay, I'm imagining a 3-down front. I'm imagining James Williams at the defensive end, defensive tackle, because he's been put in that conversation as a field defensive end, whatever. If we're playing a true 3-down front, he's either a 4 or a 4-eye, and I don't really want James Williams in either of those positions. So I think that's why a lot of the 4-down front conversation is happening.
Because it's not optimal for what he's shown. Yeah, like
right.
I'm with you. I don't want him. I don't know if he can set an edge effectively on a run in the third quarter of a game against like a Miami or something. That scares me. Like, right? Like that's where, when you kind of have your concern out, and that's where, when I see this collection of pretty talented dudes, I get flashbacks of Florida State has been taken advantage of in the run game on the perimeter, like on the edge, on the off tackle. Yeah. Like that could get a little dicey, man.
Like on 3rd and 18, it makes sense to take Elijah Herring off the field and play James Williams and Jason Jenkins, or James Williams and Amari Williams, or whomever along those two at the jack in the end spot. On 1st and 10, I just think it makes sense to be lined up in a 3-3 and play games with Elijah Herring or Stephon Thompson or whoever, and have the flexibility to be able to come from the Sam, or bring pressure from the Will, or bring pressure from both of them, and be able to loop guys. Like, it just, it makes sense to be the 3-3 for this group right here. What we've got on paper makes sense, in my opinion, because you can create more chaos with that group than I think they're going to be able to do, be just lining up in a 4-man front.
Right. And I think we could all agree that if Jenkins shows up and he's the dude, right?
He's a needle mover.
Then
that's a
you're gonna play a lot more 4 down front.
Then I think you can be way more hybrid than you can without him.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that is a good way to put it. And guys, it's an intriguing team, dude. It's an intriguing season. Like we just went, no idea. Pre-show talk, it was like, we'll get through this like half an hour or something like that. No, like we're 50 minutes in, and I still feel like we could move some stuff around. I don't really know exactly what's going to happen. And it just makes me want the season to happen that much more. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Next week, we're going to hit you with the offensive stuff. I think a little bit more concrete of where the dudes are going to play. But to me, that side of the field, that offensive side, that's the one where I have no idea what sort of output, like what the actual success is going to be, especially for that side of the ball where they have not practiced together a lot in spring, a lot of injuries. I'm doing a teaser. We'll get to that video next week. Thank you for sticking with us. It is going to be an interesting season for Florida State. We're going to be with you here the whole way. So is the Noles 24/7 crew. Once again, read that ticker across the bottom, XSNOLES 247 for half off your membership. You get all the recruiting details, all the insider scoop, all of the great sourcing that Noles 24/7 has. And
do it because you like us. Come on.
Throw us a bone. If you put the code in, it's like, it's our code. They'll know that we sent you.
We like these guys.
Yeah, if not, they'll fire us, dude. And we have families to feed. Please don't fire us. Put in the code or we're fired.
Children are starving.
They eat. Them Browns can eat. And we know that you guys can eat up this content. We love you. We will see you back. The season is upon us. It is, get ready, boys. It's going to be a ride. So keep chopping.
Chippity chop.